Well, we've been talking about these numbers all morning, and now we're getting some details. A new report from the Residential Construction Council of Ontario finds that nearly all municipalities in the Golden Horseshoe, well, they're getting a failing grade. This is in the construction of new homes, and especially given the downward trajectory of the economy is in the midst of, the consequences, according to Rescon, are dire. So joining us live this morning is Richard Lyall, the president of Rescon. Richard, appreciate you joining us this morning to talk about this report. We talk so much about housing and real estate and borrowing costs, et cetera, but if you don't have the supply, you don't have any of the rest of the story. And it sounds like we are in real trouble in the GTA.
We are, and we needed to have another look at the data, bring it up to date because we've been dealing with lagging data, and then look forward. And so this report really pulls it all together. And it's bad, and it's getting worse. Like if you look at the sales forecast, for example, in high rise, it's 89% condos. Low rise, we're down to we're 70% below where we should be. And to get back to that long-term average is going to take a lot. We can do it, but right now, we've got a problem.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard, from the federal government, for example, this Build Canada project where they're kind of looking at modular homes and sort of using some crown land, et cetera. Are projects like that going to even come close to being enough to try to make up for this lack of, or this decrease right now?
No, what they're looking at there is important because government has sort of bailed on the social housing part of things, so real attention needs to be paid there. But when you consider the fact that 90% of housing is private sector, those kinds of efforts, aren't going to make up for private sector investment and so on. And the technology that they're looking at there, which is good, we're actually going back to Germany in a month to look at the latest and greatest stuff. Okay. It's great, but it takes time. The investment in that takes time, and you're not going to get results right away. Whereas the market right now is dysfunctional. There are things we can do to fix it, though.
So what can we do? Because I think that's the question. Is you've put out the report. Now let's talk about some potential remedies.
So you have to put it in context. Ontario, within North America, is probably the hardest hit housing crisis jurisdiction. Why is that? Well, we tax housing like cigarettes, which makes no sense. That's designed to discourage consumption. We've got procedural problems. Process is everything in fixing problems, and data. So this is the data. Yeah. But the process through which you fix things is critical. And we're behind other advanced jurisdictions on building information modeling, digital twinning, big data analytics that we can use to model where we need to go and get there. Because we've got these various targets by various levels of government, but they're not connected with a real plan.
So why do you think it is that we're so far behind then?
Well, part of the problem is that we're one of the most decentralized, or the most decentralized country in the developed world. So the accountability is sort of split up between federal, provincial, regional, and local governments. Right. And then you get into these chicken and egg games where, we'll cut that sales tax if you cut the sales tax on your share, and this kind of thing. Yeah. And then nothing happens. Or to the extent that things happen, it's kind of nibbling around the edges, and we're not really dealing with the core issues.
The one thing, Richard, that struck me about this report is when I see how far behind the goals and the term, the goals the province set for the municipalities. A few months ago, we saw the Premier and Finance Minister going around with the sort of Housing Accelerator Fund initiatives, millions of dollars being promised to different municipalities. But it sounds like almost all of them, with a few exceptions, are behind or not going to reach that. If they then don't reach that, they then don't get that funding. This is kind of a vicious cycle.
Well, so far they've been lucky because it looks like they've been getting the money regardless of hitting the targets, which, you can say what you will about that, but we've got to be a lot more disciplined about how we're dealing with this, and the different levels of government need to be aligned. Like the federal plan has to be linked with the provincial plan, and municipalities are creatures of the province. So the province ultimately does have authority over what municipalities can do. Of course, they don't like to trample on municipality political rights, even though they have that authority. So you get these and we're Canadians. We're
polite.
Yeah, we're polite. We don't want to do that, but we've got to do that because the housing crisis is the product of the economics of scarcity. We weren't producing enough housing because systemically it didn't work, right? And we weren't adjusting to the realities. And then you had these disconnects, like when the federal government doubled immigration without any regard in 2023, any regard to health care, services, housing supply. And that's just no way to run a country. And and then when you look at what the role of the province is, it's not, we're unlike other countries. We again have this split responsibility.
Okay.
So,
well, let's hope this report gets the attention that it would seem to deserve. Richard Lyall, thanks for joining us this morning. Good to have this conversation.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.